Find myself feeling an incredible smile watching that video, which I've seen many times. And I want to just invite all of us to realize that those faces are walking paths in their parts of the world, just like we are. And on every path, and this is just the reality, there are those moments of those periods of darkness. Chris talked about some of them in high school. And those, Michelle Forbes talked about them as a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old. Walking the path has, if we're just sober and we're just honest, it has its challenges, it has its anxieties, it has its difficulties, it has its pain, and we can just look at that as the shadow of the path. But where there's shadow, there's light. And we heard about the way in which Chris grew up in this loving family, and his light, and his rainbows, right? And we've heard many of the presenters talk about the people that have been part of their journeys. That's the light. And so, as Lisa mentioned, we've gone global. So just a baby step, a little toe into the sort of global expansion that we are now deeply committed to long term. And to ground you in how we want to at least take this first step with a global view is we want to acknowledge and celebrate the fact that of our member companies, that 3 of our member companies that you see on our website or you saw on the wall in 2019 are actually operating in various parts of the world. And we have a member company in Brazil, a member company in Ukraine, and a member company in Sri Lanka. And right now, there are people in those countries working in those businesses being led by leaders who are here right now behind the stage. That's just beautiful, right? That there are hundreds and hundreds of leaders, of employees at these member companies right now. And so we're going to welcome to the stage, and I want you to put your hands together, especially for Thomas, who flew in the longest way, and he came in from Brazil. But if you would please join me in welcoming Thomas, Nick, and Dumi to the stage. Gentlemen, thank you for being here in our living room. A little bit different format. We're going to have each of these members of our community come to the stage representing the path of their country, and each of them will have the opportunity to share a slide that for them, that they've curated, captures in this moment the shadow of their country. And they're simply going to give us just the beautiful gift into how, when they look at that image, here in this moment, no prepared speeches, how they're relating with that, how it's impacting them at an emotional level. It's just noticing and naming their emotion when they think about the shadow of their country's path right now. And each of them will have an opportunity to share one slide on the light, the path filled with hope and possibility and optimism for the future. And so Thomas is going to lead us off, and he's going to make his way up here and bringing us to Brazil.
Thank you, Rand. Kind of nervous up here. Well, Brazil is the country where my grandparents decided to migrate to after the war in Europe, where my parents met, where they raised their families, where I got married, where my wife and I decided to raise my daughter. So that's where we call home. This is my second home. And one interesting thing about Brazil is that it's a young country, 200 years. It has never been in a real war. All the borders have been settled in a peaceful way. All those revolutions we hear and we study at school when we go to learning the history of the country, they actually ended very quickly. Oh, some people are dying. Let's stop it. So that's a very peaceful place. But on the other hand, we live in a moment right now of a big shadow. We just had presidential elections, and we live in a extremism, political extremism. So you have to be far left or far right, or you have to be against far left or against far right. And what they did was to create enemies. Enemies within our neighborhoods, enemies within our circle of friends, enemies sometimes within our families, because you're one side or the other. Has caused even problems in schools where students, kids, have to take sides. So when I look at this picture, I feel heartbroken, because that's not what we are. That's what we've been driven towards. It is heartbreaking. Imagine that shadow at home. On the other hand, when we look at the people, 230 million Brazilian, sounds a lot, we are known as very happy, very warm. We hug a lot. We are very pretty much huggers. There's a lot of challenges in a developing country. But one of the things that's very interesting is that there's an expression in Portuguese that I'm just translating right away. There's no bad weather. And literally, there's no bad weather. Here we have earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes. We don't have that there. Once in a while, we get a little bit more water or a little bit less water, but that's it. So all the lemons that have been thrown at us have become a lot of lemonade. We have been managing to go through all that because of the happiness of people. We managed to get things done. When we talk about the lemons on our way, even the national drink, caipirinha, is lemon-based. So my invitation to see that light is actually to think about a question is, how do we collectively work towards results that individually we might not agree? How did we come to that shadow when we are not that? Thank you. My heart is...
We're going to now move to a country that we're all much more familiar with now than we were likely a year ago. And I'd like to invite Nick to come to the stage to represent Ukraine.
Hi. Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. So this is a quick representation of what many people in Ukraine are experiencing today. Rolling blackouts as the infrastructure is getting attacked by Russian military. And, we had a generator kick in and the light went back on. Most people are not so lucky. Sometimes you have to wait hours. And in certain sections, you have to wait days. So I grew up in Kiev, Ukraine, in the 70s and 80s, and I also lived in St. Petersburg, Russia, in the 90s. So that's my connection. And about 50 people of my company staff is in Ukraine. This is Bucha, a suburb of Kiev, in April this year when Russian troops pulled out. And scenes like that have been popping up after those troops get kicked out of other areas this year, and they will continue popping up until the war is over. They're going to continue popping up in December, in January, February. And this is our shadow. When I look at this, I'm so angry, so fucking angry. How in the world, how can you have a war in Europe, in my home country, in the 21st century? This is unthinkable. So much violence. Well, I feel like I'm watching an assault in progress through a glass wall and just can't break through. There's nothing I can do. I feel kind of helpless in the situation. Yeah, we miss the signals. The world missed the signals that this is coming. The world didn't respond to the beginning of this war, which was in 2014, and the Georgian war in 2008. The opposition, Russian opposition, like Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion, has been talking about this regime needed to be contained, and nobody listened. I made a mistake. I believed that this war was not going to happen. I was running around telling everybody, no, it's not going to happen. Putin is rational. Why would he make things even worse for the economy? Because more sanctions would come. But there's a different type of rationality in the pre-modern mindset, which is the core of the regime, that we don't understand, so it surprises us. And when I also think about Russian people, what is going to happen to them after these war crimes, and the economy is in a really bad shape right now. A lot of you here are coaching and training people. Some of the people I know from St. Petersburg, Russia, for example, they are out of jobs. We're looking for contracts outside the country because nothing is happening in Russia right now. And this is Orange Revolution. It's an old photo from 2004 when Ukraine officially started on a path of modernity. This path is sealed now. With the war, there's no going back. Ukraine is fighting the war. Everybody's fighting, not just the government troops. There's a strong volunteer movement. The self-organization that is there is unthinkable. A lot of people donate, they keep their jobs and donate all the extra income to the military, trying to support the war in any way they can. People are buying drones, people are buying other equipment and funding shelters for internal refugees and things like that. So the country is fighting, and because it's on the path to the future, and this is the war of the past against the future, it will overcome. I have hope, I have faith that Ukraine will win and Ukraine will thrive again. No doubt about that. But I also think about Russian people. What will happen to them? Will they have a chance to go into the future? I believe so. Potentially one territory at a time, because camel can go through the eye of a needle, and a colonial empire can't go into modernity. Thank you.
Dumi, sit back down, okay? We're gonna just do we're gonna just get ourselves another opportunity to recalibrate, to integrate what's just been shared, and to prepare ourselves. Cleansing of the palate for our third and final path. So just one more breath. Big, big. Good. Good. So, Dumi, come on up.
Thanks, Rand. And hello, can you hear me? Wow, Nick. Stuff. A little bit of context before I start. Mel and I, we founded this company about 12 years ago. We were both born in Sri Lanka. We both came as undergraduates, and I've lived here 30 years. Mel's 34. Our leadership team, we have a team in the US, but a large part of our company is based out of Sri Lanka. Suri, who's our oldest brother, is a managing director there. From a small team, the technology and services team have grown to almost 900 people. He couldn't make it here, so I'm stepping in. So Suri, if you're watching this, hope you enjoy this. To darkness. This is July 9th, 2022. This is Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is the climax of Sri Lanka's economic crisis. 1 million people marching into the city, demanding a change of leadership. By this time, the parliament had resigned, the cabinet had resigned. They finally wanted the president replaced. What happened? This is a country which went through civil war, terrorism, the South Asian tsunami, but they've always paid their debt. And suddenly, beginning of this year, the country just ran out of money. There was no gas, no power. The entire economic system just collapsed. So when I see this slide, this picture, you go, no, how could this happen? This is 2022. The multiple reasons. Poor economic decisions, poor leadership, COVID and the disruption to the economy, multiple reasons. So when I see this, you feel a lot of anger, frustration, anxiety, sadness. My mom, my sister, my brother, we have family there. 22 million people all suffering. But also an inkling of hope. 1 million people could walk in and demand change and keep leaders accountable. And a lot of pride as well that it can happen. This is Sri Lanka. I just Googled beautiful Sri Lanka, and this is one of the images which popped up, although the Stagen team kind of made it pretty. It's a 2,000-year-old island south of India, former Portuguese, Dutch, British colony. One of the oldest democracies in Asia, has a great education system just like India, high literacy rates. Condé Nast always ranks this as one of the best countries to visit, if you just Google that as well. But, the best part about the country would be the people. They're extremely resilient, friendly, kind of have the island mentality as well, happy-go-lucky. So this is 5 months after, today is almost 5 months after that first slide. The IMF, the World Bank, they're in there trying to give aid. There's a new president, finance minister, new central bank governor. They're restructuring the debt. The long lines for gasoline have gone away. We had some of our team members taking Zoom calls, and they've been in gasoline lines for like 24 hours. That sound of generators, if Suri was here, he would be very familiar, the ones who are lucky enough to have those. But we're very optimistic. This country is going to not only survive, it's going to thrive. There's a long road to restructuring, but I think the people are up for it. And those kids out there, I think they're going to have even a better future. So how did our team react? We are a technology and technology-enabled services company working with hospitals, healthcare. We have SLAs, timelines. We had a plan. We prepared for this. But we've never seen anything like it. It's like that Mike Tyson's quote, everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face. And it literally was. Mel and I and the rest of the leadership team, we had to kind of wing it. We really didn't know what to do. And the team has been remarkable. I think not only the team in Sri Lanka, but also the team in the US, the leadership team, the grace they have shown in this really ridiculous situation was unbelievable. It's like what Vid said, how do you react? And the grace, the empathy, the kindness, teamwork, unbelievable. And we're so proud of the team. We are lucky that our entire leadership team had gone through ILP, and we've had at least about 80 people gone through FLC. I hope it has worked. And I think it's a privilege to be part of this community because I think that's a big part of how we survive. So thank you.
All right. So before our global panel leaves the stage, just one more round of applause for their willingness to contribute. Gentlemen, thank you.